Of the 193 or so countries recognized today, 174 of them mention the word education at least once in their constitutions. The United States federal government is one of the few that does not recognize education as a fundamental right. From the international perspective, the United States is an anomaly because public schooling is a privilege that is paid for with state income and sales taxes, as well as local property taxes. The money available for education is highly variable and very much depending on the average income in the location of any particular school. Rather than spending money where it is most needed, it is spent where it is most abundant. This could be seen to explain why the U.S. spent the third most money per student in 2004, and yet its educational system finishes 17th out of 40 in 2012. Let's take a look at how legislation and judicial review has shaped access to education in the U.S. from a historical perspective. The 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution that took effect in 1868 provides citizens equal protections under the law, and this would eventually ensure equal access to public schools, but still does not ensure equal access to education. Even today, if you live in an economically depressed district, you have relatively poor educational opportunities. It even took a series of court decisions and acts of Congress to begin to enforce equal rights to attend school across racial lines. In 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education ended attempts to provide equality while keeping races separate. But it wasn't until after passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and after voluntary segregation was ended by Green versus School Board of New Kent County in 1968 that forced integration actually started to enforce equal access to public schools. As mentioned, there still remain severe limits on access to education based on economic means. Racial integration was even limited to within the geographically defined and often socially and economically distinct school districts. Attending private schooling that only economically advantaged families could afford was allowed by Pierce and Society of Sisters in 1925. And most decisively, the San Antonio Independent School District versus Rodriguez Supreme Court case found that a financing system based on local property taxes that results in unequal educational opportunities does not conflict with the 14th Amendment, precisely because the U.S. Constitution does not include a right to education.